Hello my friends, and welcome to the secret underground parking area underneath the building where my parents live. This is where the spare bike lives now. I've just spent maybe half an hour messing around and modifying the number one bike, which is this one on your right here, mainly moving the rack and panniers off that bike onto that bike. And the reason I've done this is that I'm considering the most ambitious physical and mental challenge and the biggest logistical enterprise I've ever undertaken. And it's going to be, let me just do some maths here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be an 8-day bike ride in the middle of January of 2020. I think 5 days, then a rest day, then 3 days on the road. And it's going to get progressively more mileage each day. But basically it's going to be cold. You know, I'm expecting temperatures around freezing because we're talking about northern France here in January. So not so long ago I went out to Wayward Territory where my friend Raoul lives, and I camped in my regular one-man sort of stealth tent with my lightweight 2-season sleeping bag, and I survived about half an hour in there. And I was pretty much fully clothed before I just realised there was no way it was going to ever get warm enough for me to go to sleep. So what I figured now is that if I put my lightweight 2-season sleeping bag inside my old 2-season sleeping bag, that will probably allow me to get down to 0 degrees in my tent quite comfortably. I've watched a lot of people doing bike packing in places like Alaska in the winter, and this is what they do. They get 2 sleeping bags, one inside the other, and it makes a huge difference. Now, I've been sleeping this way on the floor at home in the woods for some time now, and it really does make a much warmer, much more comfortable night's sleep. And you don't need to wear so much clothing as well, which is critical for comfort and also, you know, personal hygiene. You just have your clothes for riding, and then when you're in your sleeping bag, you wear as little as possible. But the problem I hit upon then is the amount of cargo I can carry. Obviously you don't want to take too much weight, but I will happily carry 2 sleeping bags if it means I can get a decent night's sleep. Sleep is more critical than having a lightweight setup, I would say. So what I've done is I've had to sacrifice the traditional bike packing setup of this bike in favour of the panniers. The main reason I'm doing this is because when I normally travel, I have a lightweight sleeping bag in here, and then I have a stove and a cooking pot and some food in here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and fit both sleeping bags in there. This bag actually expands quite a lot. If I can only get one in there, the other one will go back here, or could even go on there. And I'll still have somewhere to keep the stove and the pot. The disadvantages of a rack and panniers is you've got metal bars and metal mounts which have a tendency to break, especially when you do a lot of off-roading. You've got plastic attachments which are prone to breaking, especially in tough conditions. The main disadvantage that you notice, even when everything's functioning as it should, is that you've got all this weight loaded at the back and loaded quite wide on the bike. It's off the centre line. With a bike packing setup, everything is loaded in the centre, and the real bulk is this thing here and the tent here. And because you've got your bars up here, all that weight is centred right there in between where you grab the bike. So even when you're off-roading, downhilling, whatever, you've still got all that weight is controlled inside your arms. If you're carrying a tent and a sleeping mat and your clothes and your food all over your back wheel, it just adversely affects the handling of the bike, and it's especially noticeable off-road. But I'm not too worried. It's only 8 days. I've been touring a lot with racks and panniers before. It's only relatively recently that I've switched to a true bike packing setup, which is all bags. It's hopefully the best of both worlds. This bike is by far the better bike. It's got a better size frame for me. We've got the aero bars on here. We've got some fancy old school Fox shocks. More cages. You know, there's another bag on a cage there. That's good for food. With the panniers, I'm not going to struggle for space. So this is something I've got to prepare for. I've still got to do more testing. I've got to make sure that my 2 sleeping bag system is going to be sufficient. But yeah, thanks for watching. And if you want to see more of this bike in action and see how this journey progresses and see a man undertaking some ridiculous personal challenges, stay tuned, because we're going to be putting this whole setup through its paces.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 10.